Welcome back to another episode of the Nikkicolesurfer Podcast. Today's guest is Lynsey Garfinkel. Lynsey is a photographer and surfer, and she comes from Wilmington, North Carolina currently. That's where she's living, and got to meet her there and connect with her. And I've seen her progress through her artistry over the years and then really refine her craft. And we're going to talk about kind of her journey and her process from everything from like a first business she started and how she cultivated that and how she transitioned into photography full time, and also the cool things she's been able to do as far as traveling to Tahiti, her fun and her craft and refining like who she is as an artist so that she can speak well to brands. And super excited to have you on.
I'm super excited to be here today. Thanks for the invite.
Sweet. So let's start with a little bit of your backstory. When did you first pick up a camera?
So I first picked up a camera when I was in high school. So now that is probably like 10 years ago, or even more, honestly. My grandpa did a lot of landscape photography, and I had always such a big interest in photography and video production. And so he gave me his camera. And then when he gave me the camera, I would always just go to the beach and just shoot photos of all the surfers at like the home break in Delray Beach. So there wasn't surf that much, but there was enough for some good photos. And then when I moved to Wilmington, I got my first camera um that I actually paid for. That was a Sony A7 III. And yeah, from there I've still been using the same camera. I love it so much.
Great. So we've talked a little bit about how you first picked up a camera. Tell me more about when you decided to take photography seriously. Was there a pivotal moment for you?
So it's always been my dream. Like, if anyone asks what I would want to do with photography, I'd always say I want to be the photographer for Roxy or Billabong, like traveling to all the tropical islands and doing photo shoots with all the models there. That's always been such a big dream of mine. But there's been a long process to get there. So I guess I didn't start taking it seriously until the beginning of last year because I had just closed down my art business. It was an ocean inspired resin art. And I just was unhappy doing the resin because I am such a big traveler and I love to be outside and I'd be in my studio all the time. I'm like, I need to go back to my roots. Like I've always wanted to be a freelance photographer. I have to make this happen. Like the years are just ticking by. So I closed down the business in December of 2022 and it's cold in Wilmington during that time. So I'm like, where can I go that I can actually get a kickstart on building this portfolio? And at the time, I just wanted to focus on surf photography. And so, of course, instantly I'm like Australia. And I had studied abroad there in um 2018. And so I've been just itching to get back, especially after COVID. So I booked a ticket to the Gold Coast and I spent about 2 months on the Gold Coast and in Byron Bay in the water and out of the water shooting a lot of surf photography. And then it wasn't until around that time that I decided that I was super interested in also brand and fashion photography, but with an ocean kind of twist.
That's awesome. Can you walk me through more details of how you ended up in the situation where you started the resin business? And then when it reached a point of like happy to unhappy, what was that like?
Yeah, so I actually, so okay, so I've always wanted to do resin. That's for years. I've seen so many videos and I've been so inspired by it, and I'm of course so inspired by the ocean. So I thought it'd be so cool to like intertwine both of those. And I started the business in 2020. I had just graduated from University of North Carolina at Wilmington, so UNCW, and I was like, what do I do? It's COVID right now. Trying to find a job is just impossible. I just want to start this little hobby. And so I got some resin and this is a big no-no, but I would do the resin in my kitchen, um, like around like in at nights, and I would just start making coasters and like originally I want to do like really big pieces. And so I was just like working my way trying to figure out like how it works and everything. And I started making a lot of coasters. I'm like, okay, I just dropped a couple grand on all this equipment and on resin. Resin's so expensive. So I was like, okay, I should probably do some markets to get that money back. And so I started doing coasters and jewelry dishes, and then I worked my way up to bigger things. So my most popular item was I had these ocean mirrors, and I do waves on the mirror. Those became a really big selling item, and they take up a little bit more space. So then from there, it kind of just like spiraled out of control. I'm like, okay, I'm getting all these orders. I need to get a studio space. I need to do this and that. And so I kept on just focusing on my business, on how to grow it. And I wasn't really thinking about what I wanted to do like in life. I was just like, I have this business now, like I want it to be successful. And yeah, so I kept on getting bigger and bigger spaces. And then COVID, just started to fade out and traveling started to become more prominent, and everyone was traveling all over, and I was like seeing everyone's videos going to Europe and Australia and Hawaii. I'm like, oh man, I miss traveling. Like I can't do that anymore because I'm so rooted. So I started to get super upset about that and reconsider if this is really what I wanted to be doing. Plus, it does, which I did not like at all, is it kind of creates a lot of waste with resin because you have like the resin scraps. And I would try to find ways um, to try to recycle them and put it in art projects and stuff, but I really don't like to create a lot of waste. And of course, being a photographer is way less impact than creating all the resin stuff. So I was like, that's also like for my mental like health kind of. I don't want to be knowing I'm creating all of this waste. I want something way like a smaller carbon footprint. So yeah, then I just decided I was like, I'm gonna get my visa and book flights to Australia, and then from there the rest is history.
Yeah. Was it hard to kind of let go of maybe the expectations you had at the time or like what you had built up?
Yeah, actually it's funny because now that like I'm in Wilmington for the winter, and I've been thinking like of course also around the holiday season is when usually the businesses are the most popular. So I was like, wow, I really wish during this time I had my resin business so I can make, some money on the side because I typically do a lot of ocean and surf photography, and it's not very busy during this time in the winter. So yeah, definitely part of me is like I wish I still had that, or like I'll see videos now, I'm like, that looks fun. But just like thinking back on 2023, I had so many experiences that I wouldn't have had if I was still doing the resin business. So I keep on just thinking about that and how many people I've met in the past year, and that makes me really happy.
Yeah. Do you think it had to be a one or the other decision?
I think in my life right now it does, just because the studio rent was a lot of money and I rent for my house, so I don't have any space for that and it's really messy. So maybe like down the road if I like when I own a house and have like a garage space, maybe like as a hobby I would get back into it, but I think in like at this time in my life it'd be one or the other.
What do you think fueled your passion for travel?
Um That's a good question. I don't know. I've loved traveling for as long as I can remember. Yeah, I've always just loved the ocean too. So now whenever I think back, like I want to travel everywhere. I just see a new place. Like right now on my like top is Iceland and Norway and West Oz. That's super high up. So I don't know what caused it, but I'm definitely like the traveler of the family. Everyone else is like in New York City or in Florida or Colorado, just like super rooted down. They're happy like being there, and I'm always like looking at flights like, ooh, if I go to France right now, it's only $100. Obviously not 100, but just like finding like ways, and they're just like, there she goes again, like can't keep up with her.
Do you think it makes it a different dynamic when you're constantly traveling versus when you're in one place? Because you've experienced a bit of both.
Yeah, I am so bad when I'm not traveling. Like I always like to have something to look forward to. Um, I just like can't stay anywhere too long. Um, so I need to work on that, and just like right now I've been working on it and just like focusing on um mental health and physical health when you're not traveling is so important because when you are traveling, you don't have a consistent routine. So I've been really grateful for this period right now. So I've just been like going to like a lot of workout classes and like making a lot of fun recipes, and it's kind of finding the enjoyment in the smaller things when you're not like say in Tahiti or Australia.
What are some of the things that you started to think about or develop when it comes to routines and travel? Because obviously there's a lot of change in the day to day, but what are some of the things that you keep with you to keep you like focused and good at what you're doing?
Um, yeah, so definitely when you're traveling, it's kind of, you're waking up early and you're so excited to just have a full day. So I really like that part about traveling. Um, but I feel like some things that keep me rooted during that time is honestly the ocean is I'm super that just kind of aligns me with everything. So when I'm like by the ocean, I feel like that kind of like rejuvenates me if I'm just like swimming or doing like I love to swim laps. Sometimes I'll like when I was in Byron Bay, I'd find places to go swim laps or do like a YouTube video of a workout class or a yoga class. And I feel like whenever I have that, it kind of gives me routine, or if I'm staying somewhere more longer term, just like cooking dinner and making breakfast every day definitely helps you get more into a routine. And honestly, just like taking it all in because sometimes like when you're traveling for a while, you can get to the point where you're like, oh, like I just wish I was home and I had my routine back. But I feel like also taking a step back and realizing like this is all temporary and you can just enjoy the moment, like have those long full days, because a lot of times when you are home you get like stuck in the routine and you like think back on those days. So I feel like just like being in the moment and just creating a little bit of routine in your daily life.
No, that definitely makes sense. It's like when someone looks back on a moment where it's like you're there for a month and you're just like, oh, wait, that actually flew by so quickly.
Oh, definitely. Like even in Tahiti, I like I went with like a few friends and I like also did a photography workshop class with Warm Collective. And I was like nonstop for like the whole month. And I would just like think at times, I'm like, I can't wait till I can just like sit on the couch all day and not like have to feel like like guilt. I don't know. Whenever I'm traveling, I feel super guilty if I'm not outside 24/7. So like
Mm.
sometimes I'm like, oh man, I wish I was sitting on the couch and I can like take a second to slow down because you have such full days. But now when I think about it, I'm like, you really gotta savor every second because it's only, you're only gonna be there with those people for, a certain amount of days. So just I have to slow down and just like take it all in.
Yeah. And speaking of a month in Tahiti, what drew you to Tahiti?
Yeah, so when I was in Australia, earlier in the month, I had a friend that mentioned she's like, I really want to go to French Polynesia. And I was like, ooh, that sounds cool. Like if you go, let me know, like I'd love to go. Like I can never turn down a trip. And I'm actually very spontaneous. Like I'm heading to Hawaii next month. And I just figured out my housing like yesterday and I still have to book flights. So like I'm very, very spontaneous. And so she started like telling me, okay, like we should, get our airfare and our housing. And it was probably like 5 months ahead of time. I'm like, whoa, I need some time to think. I'm like so last minute. And she was just like so prepared. I was like, you know what? Let's do it. I'm not gonna turn this down. So yeah, I went with her and then these two other girls that were also from Australia, and they're all like ocean loving girls. So we had like such a good time. We started out in Tahiti and then we worked our way to Moorea. Um, and we were there for like 2 weeks. And then I went back to Tahiti and I was there for a week and I met two other photographers that were going. Also, they were joining the photography workshop with Warm Collective. And so I had never met them before and they came early and we just like had so much fun also. I did a lot of test shoots during that time as well. And then the actual workshop with Warm Collective was about 10 days. Um, and the timing just worked out so perfect. Like I originally was supposed to go for 2 weeks, and then I saw them release the dates. I'm like, there's no way I'm missing this. And so I just extended the trip another 2 weeks.
Mhm. Um, was was Tahiti everything you expected? What did you come in with expectations for Tahiti?
Yeah, it was definitely everything I expected and more. Like the people there are so nice. Like I've never met such like nicer, more welcoming people. The food is so good. And you wouldn't expect that, it's like a tropical island in the Pacific that they're gonna have, croissants and baguettes and everything like that. But it is part of like the French territory. So they had all of the French food too, which I thought was really interesting. And then of course the locations were like insane. Um, just being able to witness things that I've seen on like movies or like on YouTube, on Instagram, and I've just been dreaming of going there, and to see it in person was just like an unreal experience.
And then what about your ideas on like your areas within Tahiti? Was there anywhere where you would have spent more time?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of islands that I didn't get to go to that I want to go back to. So I spent probably around a week and a week and a half on total in Tahiti. And then the rest of the time, so like about 2.5 weeks on Moorea. And they're both like stunning places, but they are a little bit different. So Moorea is more tropical turquoise waters, and like very quaint, like a cute little like island. You could probably drive around the whole island in like 3 hours, I'd say, like fully around it. And there's just so many amazing beaches and waterfalls, and then it's also known for the whale tour. So the humpback whales migrate there every year. And so there's a lot of ecotourism there. So that's a really popular spot for a lot of photographers to go to see that. And take all the photos. Like I know a lot of photographers I met there will go there seasonally and do that. And then Tahiti is more, like I'm gonna pronounce it wrong, but Teahupo is super like an incredible spot for surfers, like, top tier. And so a lot of people go there for the surfing, and that was just incredible to witness. But there's definitely a lot more surfing on Tahiti than there is in Moorea. I know there was like one or two spots in Moorea that we saw, but definitely Tahiti's the spot for surfing.
Did you surf in Tahiti?
I didn't. No, I wish I did.
No.
It's actually super interesting. They don't really have a lot of surf like stores there, like
Hmm.
surf shops or anything. So it's really hard to find surfboards. Definitely I'm not qualified to surf at Teahupo, but they did have I met some like Vaimidi. She's the an amazing longboarder. So I there's definitely a lot of good longboarding spots there too. But yeah, no, I didn't go surfing. I've actually thought it was super interesting. Sometimes you have to like go on Reddit and there'll be people posting like in Tahiti and Moorea, like I have a surfboard if anyone wants to use it or like rent it, because they really don't have any surf shops there, which is super interesting.
That
But
is really
definitely
interesting.
time I want to go longboarding there.
Absolutely. What was it like taking a leap from one business to another and how that process came together?
Um, it's it's very interesting because of course they are ocean related, but they're very, very, very different. So with my resin business, I was in a studio all day just making art, and then I would go to markets and I would just talk to customers and potential like customers and try to sell my art. So it was kind of like in a way like you're creating art, which is really inspiring, but kind of soulless because you're just like trying to sell art, like you don't really get it's like a machine in a way. You're like, oh, I'm just like, I need to make this much and this much. You kind of lose the meaning of why you're doing it.
Mhm.
Whereas with photography, you're depending on what type of photography you're doing. Like I love like surf photography, brand photography, like fashion, swimwear. So a lot of it, of course, you have the admin where you're, pitching, trying to get clients, then you're working on your website. But then also you get to meet incredible people and you get to just connect. And like when you do connect, the photos also turn out better. So you're getting to meet these amazing people in these incredible locations and really getting to make these like memorable moments. it's really special.
Yeah, it sounds like photography for you allowed you to itch that travel bug as well as connect with people and be way more sociable than sitting in an art gallery, just like creating stuff all day by yourself.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Just when I think back on 2023 and like the places I got to travel, like I am just so grateful. So I'm excited for 2024, but definitely being a freelance photographer, like as you can relate, it is a really hard industry because you never know when your next job is. So like to have that uncertainty is really hard at times, but the moments make up for it.
Speaking of that, how do you deal with your uncertainties?
Um, I feel like it's hard. Everyone has uncertainties, and I feel like just trying to just focus, like zone out everything and just focus on what you want and try to create that. So, in like today's world, everyone's just like on social media a lot. I know I saw if like you saw all the in and outs for 2023, and I noticed on almost every single person's outs that I saw was screen time and social
Mhm.
media. And I think it's so interesting because we're all trying to create, but we're also consuming so much, and that kind of in a way affects your creativity because you're just seeing what other people have created and you're like trying to like recreate that, or you're like being like, wow, like I wish I could do that, or like you're just seeing so much content that you're like you kind of start feeling down with yourself that like I'm just sitting at home and I don't have that opportunity, I don't have the waves in like my backyard like that. So I feel like it's really hard. Like it's very inspiring, but it's also really hard. So definitely I'm trying to take a step back from consuming all like the social media, and I'm trying to create more and just, get on social media and like post something and then get out, which um it could be hard because I feel like we're so like programmed now, just like, oh, like I have a free second, I'm just gonna scroll. But I've been trying to not do that. And I love Pinterest. I feel like I have been going on Pinterest a lot and seeing that I've been getting more creative, like being like, oh, that's so cool, like from like a 1970s magazine, or like, like vintage vibes, and like seeing that, or watching movies. Honestly, I this is kind of like a guilty pleasure, but I was watching H2O. Do you know the H2O with the
Yeah,
mermaid? Because I've been like pitching for Hawaii and I've just been on my computer so much. So I'm like, I'm just gonna watch this mindless show, such a good show. And I'd watch H2O and I'd honestly see a scene and be like, oh, that's actually a really good idea, and like write it down in my notes. So like just trying to get creativity like in different ways is really important. Having a supportive like friend and family group, or yeah, family and friend group is important, but also I feel like connecting with other photographers. Like I feel like I get so um inspired just by talking to everyone. I've like hopped on with like a few calls and done courses. So I feel like just talking to everyone makes it better. Like you can see also that other people are dealing with struggles because everyone's always just posting their wins. But
mhm.
you can then also be like, are you struggling in this way? And like just to like talk to other photographers that are going through the same thing, it makes you realize that, everyone has struggles.
Yeah, it's a really good point that you've drawn it back to community because community impacts you so much, and having a good, solid, like core group, even if it's like two or three people, whether it's your family, friends, something like that, can make all the difference. Because at the end of the day, like as a freelancer, you do spend a lot of your time like pitching and shooting and doing all these things, but you're not necessarily going to see those people all the time. So making sure you're surrounded with good community can really make
Mhm.
a difference.
Oh, for sure. I feel like just from this past year, the amount of people that I've met through photography is just inspiring. And I'm like, how did I go through life without them? Like, they're like my biggest motivators, and they actually, understand what you're going through and can help you. So I think it's so important to make those connections. Like, if you have a photographer that you admire, like send them a message, or you see someone else's work that you're super inspired by, just send them a message because you have to use social media to your advantage, make new connections, and who knows, like maybe a job can come from that.
Absolutely. What would you say is your way of finding balance to enjoying a place versus shooting nonstop, because it's so easy to like get somewhere and be so excited and just
Mhm.
like bring your camera everywhere all the time.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm kind of the opposite. Like I will go without my camera almost everywhere unless I have a shoot, and I always will regret it. Like, oh man, like this is such an amazing location. I wish I had my camera for this. And when I was in Tahiti, because I don't know, I just feel like always am like, I don't want to have like the extra 5 pounds on me. Or like I'm hiking, I'm so clumsy. What if I fall and like I smashed my lens? But I did that probably like for the first week of when I was in French Polynesia, and then I'm like, okay, like I need to start bringing my camera everywhere because this is just incredible, you know, like I want to be able to like just have those like higher quality photos. Um, so yeah, I feel like you kind of can just like split your time just being like conscious of what you're doing, like take it all in, but also, you know, you can get some photos and videos, like I don't know, make a time limit, like, okay, I'm gonna take like 5 photos here or like one video, because a lot of times, you know, as photographers, we're like, okay, I don't know what photo I like better, and it's like 10 photos, and you like show it to anyone that's like not a photographer, and they're like, this looks exactly the same. You're like, oh, but like, it's not, you know, so I guess just like trying to limit that. But yeah, like when I am home, I don't use my camera at all unless I do have a work shoot. So I was saying to you earlier how I really am trying to be more aware about that, and also just take my camera to like little moments. So now I've just been going like to the sunset, or like there were some waves last week, and I'll take my camera and like put my phone away and just get creative like recording videos, because I just love the whole aspect of editing videos and putting that together. So I guess you know, you have like the pros and cons of bringing your camera everywhere, but I feel like you also have to just take in the moment. So just don't be on it too much, but then also get the shots that you want.
So it sounds like you can just leave your camera behind for some moments and then others be intentional and bring it, but also be in the moment.
Definitely. Yeah, like for in French Polynesia, when we would do the whale tours, I think I did 3 or 4 whale tours. So you basically get in the water and you're about 200 meters away. So you have to swim. Okay, so it's like a whole process. So for the law in French Polynesia is that you can't have a boat that's might get this wrong because it's been a few months, but I'm pretty sure it's like 200 meters away from the whales. So when you get to like the 200-meter mark, you have to jump off the boat and swim to like around 200 meters to get to the whales. And it's just like in the open water, and you know, I am very clumsy. I lost a GoPro once when I was scuba diving. Like I was at a safety stop. I'm like, oh, there it goes. And it's just like floating to the bottom. So I just get nervous, like, you know, flooding my water housing. And I have an Access Go. And I would just put my phone in my Access Go and just like record photos and videos. And I feel like it came out great, like high quality. And I didn't have to worry about like flooding my camera that I had like shoots planned like later in the week and stuff like that. So I feel like you can just like decide, you know, like, do I want to like just have like iPhone like photos or videos, or do I want to, you know, get more creative and have my camera?
Absolutely. And there's such versatility because phones have come such a far way. So we can still capture the moments, but we don't have to necessarily always do it on a camera. But obviously, when you're doing like brand work and stuff, you want to do it on a camera too.
Exactly, definitely.
Awesome. So tell me more about what we have to look forward to with your photography. And it's January of 2024 as we're speaking now. So tell me more about what you've got planned for the year and down the road.
Yeah, so it's crazy when I look back on 2023 because I had just started getting into brand and fashion photography, and then just thinking about like my little and big wins just like from the span of like March until December is crazy. So I'm really excited for whatever 2024 has in plan for me. Um yeah, I'm heading to Hawaii next month, or the end of next month, for about a month with a couple other photographers. So I'm super excited about that. I have a lot of exciting photo shoots planned for there. And also, I'm just so excited. I'm hoping that the waves on the North Shore will still be big enough to get a lot of like photos and videos, because I've been trying to just, get creative in other ways besides just doing like showing up for a photo shoot. So I have that I'm super excited about. And then I'm hoping to get to Europe sometime in the summer and have some photo shoots there. And then also I feel like it'd be really fun to like do prints. That's something I want to do. And also maybe like creating like a community of like like-minded people. I really want to start doing like dinner parties or stuff like that where we can like say you're like in Portugal and you like put out like a message on Instagram like I'm doing a dinner here. Like I would love for photographers and creatives to do that. I really want to start doing that because I feel like just community over everything. And
I love
yeah, I'm
that.
excited for 2024.
That's so exciting. So it sounds like you're focusing on shooting more, traveling more, and building stronger communities. So that's amazing. I love how you're so welcoming and inviting people into community. I feel like that's so essential is like as you're growing as a photographer to be around inspiring people that you inspire and they inspire you.
Yeah, I feel like it's so important because I am like still very new in the industry. So I feel like it is so important to be welcoming because when like I was so new to so many things last year and I had such an amazing group of people that I would ask them questions and they would just like not gatekeep and they would just tell me everything. And so when I think back on that, like I just get really emotional and I'm just like, wow, these people are so nice. Like I want to be that person for other people. Like now I'll get like messages on like Instagram and emails and stuff and asking people like asking me like how do I start working with brands or how do I do this? And I'm like, like this is how you do it. Like let me know if you need anything and just being so welcoming because it can be really scary starting um photography in this industry because I know like there's, people that gatekeep and stuff like that, but you have to focus more on the positives and the people that are welcoming and it'll make it so much easier and you'll feel so much more confident going out into the world and pitching and working with brands.
Absolutely. Is there anything that I haven't asked you today that you would like to cover or talk about?
Not that I can think of.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Super stoked to have you on and to hear more about your experiences. And I hope that people find inspiration and like that they enjoy this episode. And I'm going to link your social media and website so people can check out more of your work and keep in touch with you.
Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to hang out with you in Hawaii.
Yes, absolutely.